Hello friends, how are you? I hope you are good, happy, and enjoying your life. Thank you so much for joining my video today. In this Brit Tale, you will hear a real story built around a journey of optimism, hope, and new opportunities. It is an advanced English story designed for B2, C1 learners, with a focus on listening, reading, and pronunciation skills. You'll hear a clear British English accent with subtitles to guide you. Together, we'll explore vocabulary themes like optimism, resilience, careers, and travel, learning English naturally through storytelling and imagination. Please like, share, and subscribe. And now enjoy the story. A journey of optimism, hope, and new opportunities is something we all seek at some point in our lives, and it becomes even more powerful when shared through a story. Imagine standing at a crossroads where one path looks familiar, safe, and predictable, while the other path is unknown, uncertain, and perhaps even a little intimidating. Many people hesitate, held back by fear of failure or the weight of past disappointments. But the heart of this journey lies in choosing to take the step forward anyway. It is in that very moment, when courage outweighs doubt, that optimism begins to shine. Optimism is not simply about smiling through difficult times. It is about believing that even challenges carry hidden opportunities, and that setbacks can redirect us towards something better. Hope adds another layer to this journey, acting as a quiet but constant companion. It whispers that no matter how heavy the road feels, there is always something meaningful waiting ahead. Hope is the invisible bridge between where we are and where we wish to be. It helps us imagine brighter possibilities and encourages us to keep moving forward, even when the road feels uncertain. With hope, even small steps gain significance, because every effort is seen as progress towards a larger vision. New opportunities, when embraced with both optimism and hope, often appear in surprising ways. Sometimes they come disguised as challenges that force us to grow, or as unexpected doors opening when another has closed. The journey teaches us that opportunities are rarely handed to us in neat packages. They must be noticed, pursued, and often created with effort and imagination. This mindset transforms the way we see the world. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" we begin to ask, "What if this leads me to something extraordinary?" That shift in thinking is what allows individuals to break free from limitations and begin shaping the life they desire. This story is more than just words. It is an invitation to see the world through a different lens. It is a reminder that optimism fuels resilience, that hope sustains us through uncertainty, and that opportunities are everywhere for those willing to notice them. When we listen to such a journey, we do not only follow the character, we also find reflections of our own struggles, dreams, and potential. It encourages us to carry optimism in our pockets, hope in our hearts, and readiness in our minds, so that when the next door opens, we are prepared to walk through it with courage. An advanced English story designed for B2, C1 learners is not just about listening to words. It is about stepping into a world where language becomes both a challenge and a companion. At this level, learners have already built a strong foundation, but they are searching for something richer, something that pushes them to think, to imagine, and to grow in confidence. A story at this stage does more than entertain. It stretches the mind and tests the ear, encouraging learners to explore subtle expressions, nuanced vocabulary, and complex sentence structures that reflect the natural rhythm of English as it is truly spoken. It is in this space between comfort and challenge that real progress happens, and that is why an advanced story holds such power. What makes this kind of story unique is the balance it creates. It is not so simple that it feels repetitive, yet not so difficult that it leaves the listener behind. Instead, it invites learners to walk just slightly ahead of their comfort zone, where they can hear familiar patterns but also encounter new phrases that spark curiosity. At the B2, C1 level, learners are ready to handle more abstract ideas: hope, resilience, optimism, opportunity. And through storytelling, these themes are presented in a way that feels alive. Rather than memorizing lists of words or drilling grammar rules, learners experience language as it flows in natural conversation and narrative. This is where they begin to appreciate English not just as a tool for communication, but as a medium for thought, creativity, and connection. Another strength of using an advanced English story is how it trains multiple skills at once. While listening, learners are absorbing pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. While reading along, they are reinforcing spelling, grammar, and structure. And as they reflect on the meaning, they are engaging with vocabulary in a personal, memorable way. Stories allow them to visualize, to feel, and to connect words with emotions, making the language stick in ways that traditional study methods often cannot. It is through this integration of skills that fluency begins to take shape, because the language is no longer separate parts but a living whole. This advanced story, then, is more than just a practice exercise. It is an opportunity to step into English as it is truly lived. It challenges, it supports, and it inspires learners to reach beyond where they are now, proving that the journey of mastering a language is not only possible, but deeply rewarding. And that is the beauty of learning at this level. Focus on listening, reading, and pronunciation skills is at the very heart of improving with an advanced English story, because these three elements are deeply connected. When listening carefully to a story, it is not just about hearing the words, it is about catching the rhythm, the tone, and the emotion behind the sentences. This is how language feels alive. Learners begin to notice how certain words are stressed, how pauses create meaning, and how intonation changes the mood of what is being said. With each line, the ear becomes more sensitive, and the brain starts to recognize patterns that make communication smoother and more natural. Listening, then, becomes the doorway to understanding how English truly sounds in everyday life. Reading adds another important dimension because it strengthens the connection between sound and text. Subtitles allow learners to follow the story visually while hearing it spoken, which reinforces memory and comprehension. Every phrase on the screen acts as a guide, making it easier to link what the ear hears with what the eyes see. Over time, learners develop stronger recognition of spelling, grammar, and structure, and they begin to anticipate how sentences are formed. Reading while listening also prevents frustration, because even when a word is unfamiliar to the ear, the eye can clarify it instantly. This dual focus creates a powerful learning loop, building confidence and deepening understanding with every moment spent inside the story. Pronunciation, meanwhile, is where learners can actively transform what they have absorbed into something they can produce themselves. By repeating lines, mimicking intonation, and practicing the shape of the words in the mouth, the language becomes more natural to speak. Pronunciation is not only about sounding correct, it is about feeling comfortable and confident when using English. When learners hear a word, read it on the screen, and then say it aloud, they are completing a cycle of input and output that strengthens fluency. This process takes practice, but the story provides a safe and engaging environment to try, without pressure or judgment. Together, listening, reading, and pronunciation create a complete experience. Each one supports the others, and the story ties them all into a single flow. By practicing in this way, learners are not only studying English, they are living it, step by step, with every word and every sound drawing them closer to fluency. And that is how skills truly come together. British English Accent with clear subtitles for practice offers learners a unique and rewarding experience because it combines clarity with authenticity. The accent itself carries a rhythm and style that is distinct, and by listening carefully, learners begin to notice the finer details of pronunciation, such as how vowels are shaped, how consonants are softened, and how intonation rises and falls naturally within a sentence. This is not something that can be learned from a textbook alone. It requires real exposure, where the ear becomes trained to pick up subtleties that define how English is spoken in everyday life. When paired with subtitles, the experience becomes even more powerful because every sound is anchored by the written word, making the learning process both easier and more effective. The use of subtitles gives learners confidence because it creates a bridge between what they hear and what they understand. If a phrase sounds unfamiliar, the text immediately confirms its meaning and spelling, allowing learners to continue without losing focus. This builds a strong habit of linking sound with sight, which is one of the most effective ways to expand vocabulary and improve comprehension. Subtitles also encourage learners to pay closer attention to word order, sentence structure, and punctuation, all of which contribute to better reading skills. Over time, this dual practice sharpens listening and reading simultaneously, making progress faster and more natural. Another benefit of practicing with a British English accent is the opportunity to develop pronunciation skills that are precise and elegant. By repeating words and phrases after hearing them, learners begin to mirror the accent and rhythm, slowly shaping their own speech to sound clearer and more confident. The accent provides a model to follow, while the subtitles ensure that no detail is missed. This cycle of listening, reading, and speaking strengthens fluency and builds the kind of natural confidence that learners need when using English in real-life situations. Through this combination, practice becomes more than study, it becomes an experience. Learners are not only exposed to authentic sounds, but also guided step by step by clear subtitles that ensure understanding. With time and consistency, this method transforms language learning into something immersive, practical, and enjoyable. It allows learners to hear English as it is spoken, see it as it is written, and speak it with growing accuracy, bringing all the essential skills together in one meaningful process. And that is how language becomes truly alive. Vocabulary themes, optimism, resilience, careers, and travel are at the center of this story because they reflect ideas that are not only practical for learning English, but also meaningful for life itself. When encountering the word optimism, for example, it is more than just a definition in a dictionary. It is the attitude of looking ahead with hope, of choosing to see possibility instead of limitation. Through the story, this word takes on a living shape, showing how optimism influences decisions and guides people through uncertain moments. It becomes a reminder that language is not only learned but also felt, and that certain words carry the power to shape our perspective. Resilience adds another important layer, introducing learners to the vocabulary of strength and perseverance. It is one thing to know what resilience means, but it is something entirely different to see it expressed in action within a narrative. When a character faces setbacks yet continues to move forward, the word resilience stops being abstract and begins to carry weight. Learners not only memorize the term, but also feel its meaning in context, which is what makes it unforgettable. This kind of vocabulary learning is deeper, more emotional, and therefore much easier to recall and use later in real conversations. Careers provide another theme, offering practical and future-focused language. Words connected to ambition, opportunity, and work environments are essential, especially for learners who wish to use English in professional settings. The story brings these words into a natural flow, making them easier to understand and apply. Instead of memorizing isolated terms, learners see how they belong to a bigger picture, how choices, challenges, and achievements in a career are described in authentic English. This context-driven learning ensures the vocabulary is not just learned, but ready to be used when speaking about goals, jobs, or aspirations. Travel, finally, introduces vocabulary that sparks imagination and connects learners to universal experiences. Words related to journeys, new places, and cultural discovery encourage learners to dream while practicing. Travel vocabulary is powerful because it is both practical and inspiring. It prepares learners for real life situations while also reminding them that language opens doors to the wider world. In combining optimism, resilience, careers, and travel, the story creates a tapestry of words that reflect both personal growth and practical expression. And that is how vocabulary becomes more than words on a page. Learn English naturally through storytelling and imagination is one of the most effective and enjoyable ways to master the language, because it mirrors the way we first learned to speak as children. Stories engage both the mind and the heart, allowing learners to step into situations, characters, and emotions that feel real, even if they are fictional. This immersion is what makes storytelling such a powerful tool. Instead of memorizing endless lists of vocabulary or forcing grammar into rigid patterns, learners absorb language in a living, flowing context. Words come to life, sentences carry meaning, and the rhythm of English begins to sound familiar without the effort of translation. Imagination plays a vital role here because it transforms simple listening into active participation. When a learner imagines the scenes, pictures the settings, or connects personally with the characters' struggles and dreams, they are no longer just studying, they are experiencing. This emotional connection deepens understanding and makes the language easier to remember. For example, hearing a phrase like "a heart full of hope" becomes much more than a collection of words. It becomes a vivid image that stays in the mind and can be recalled naturally in conversation. Imagination turns vocabulary into memories, and those memories become a foundation for fluency. The natural rhythm of storytelling also teaches how language flows in everyday communication. Learners pick up on how sentences link together, how questions are asked, how emotions are expressed, and how dialogue unfolds. These patterns are absorbed almost unconsciously, which is why stories are far more effective than isolated exercises. Subtitles can support this process, making it easier to connect sound and meaning. But it is the story itself that keeps learners engaged. A good story creates curiosity about what will happen next, and that curiosity motivates learners to listen more closely, to read more carefully, and to practice with more enthusiasm. Through storytelling, learners are not only improving skills, but also building confidence. They realize they can understand advanced ideas, follow complex emotions, and even predict meaning from context when they encounter new words. This natural process gives them the courage to use English outside of study, whether in conversation, travel, or work. With every story, the language feels less like a subject to be studied and more like a companion to be lived. And that is how imagination turns learning into a journey. Thank you, my friends, for spending this time with me. I hope this advanced English story has inspired you with its journey of optimism, hope, and new opportunities. Together, we've practiced at a B2, C1 level, focusing on listening, reading, and pronunciation, guided by a clear British accent with subtitles. Along the way, you discovered vocabulary themes like optimism, resilience, careers, and travel, and learned how English can grow naturally through storytelling and imagination. Keep practicing, keep believing, and let every story bring you closer to fluency. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye.